So now we have installed everything that we need and we are ready to customize our website. And we're going to do that in the Elementor page builder. So how do we get into the page builder? Now there's two ways. The first one is to just come over here and go to our website. And then here, when you're logged in to your WordPress account, you can see that bar here at the top. And now that we have installed Elementor, we can see this button that says Edit with Elementor. So we can just click on it. And this will take us to the page builder for our homepage where we can start to make changes. Another way to go to the page builder is to go through your dashboard. So let's go to Pages. And then here, let's say we want to make some changes to the About page. We can just hover over it right here. And then you can see it says Edit with Elementor. We can just click here and that will take us into the page builder for the About page. But we want to just work on one page at the same time. So we're going to close this tab of the About page and just go back to our home page. Now, the first thing that is very important to understand is how our pages on our website are structured. And we can nicely see that here in the navigator. If you can't see that navigator, you can come down here on the bottom left and click on the navigator icon to make it appear. So every page on our website is built using containers, and inside of those containers, we have elements. So here in the navigator, we can click on that first container, and the magenta line here will show us where that container is. So here, that first container is basically just the entire top section with this landscape background. When we click on this second container, which is inside of this first one, then we can see this gray line, which shows us that this part right here is the second container. And within that container, we have elements, which is the actual content on your website. So here we have a spacer, which is this top part of the container. Then we have this heading saying Earth. We have another heading, which is below this saying Endless Potential. And then we have a button right here at the bottom. And the rest of this page is built in the exact same way. So when we scroll down, we come here to the second container. And then when we open it up, we can see 3 more containers, which just are these 3 columns right here. We can open them up and then we can see there's an image, which is this one. We have a heading, which is this web design. And then we have the text editor, which is for this text right here. So this is how our pages are structured. And I like to use this navigator whenever I get confused about the hierarchy of all of my containers and my elements. But whenever I'm changing something on the site, I don't really use it. So for now, we're just going to close the navigator right here. And whenever we want to take it back, we can just come down here and click on the navigator icon to make it appear again. Whenever you want to move a container on your page, you can just hover over the container you want to move. And then you want to click and hold on these 6 dots and then move the container to wherever you want to place it. Maybe we just put it right here. And now the position has changed. Whenever we need to undo something and go back one step, all we have to do is press Command Z on our keyboard for Mac or Control Z for Windows. And as we can see now, the container is back in its original position. Whenever we want to add a new section to our page, we have to first start with a new container. So to add a new container, we can just hover over an existing container and then click on the plus icon here at the top. Then again, click on the plus icon. And then we can choose between Flexbox and Grid. I'm going to go more in depth about what the difference is here. But for now, let's just choose Flexbox. And then we have some different structures we can start with. Maybe we want to just do something with 2 columns. So let's choose this structure right here. And then we can also decrease or increase the width of these columns here. And once this layout is looking good, we can start adding elements. So here on the 9 dots, we can find all of the elements we can add. For example, we can click, hold, and drag in our heading. Then we can go back to our elements and maybe also drag in some text below our heading. And then maybe we also want to add a button below the text right here. And whenever we want to delete one of these elements that we've just added, we can simply right click and then click on delete. When we want to delete the entire container we have just added, we can just hover over it and then click on the X, which will delete the entire container. Something that's also very useful to know is that all of your changes are always saved here on your page builder. So let's say we want to go back to a previous version of our website. What we can do is come down over here and click on this history icon. Here we can see all the changes that we have made, and we can always go back to a previous version. So maybe we want to go back 2 steps. We can just click on this button added step here, and this will take us back 2 steps where we had this new container right here. But I actually don't need this container, so I'm going to delete it again by clicking on the X here at the top. And to save any changes we've made and make it go live on our actual website, we can come down here and click on update. Whenever we want to see a preview of our website, we can simply just close down this Elementor sidebar by clicking on this arrow, and this will give us a full width view. Or what I like to do is just open it up in a new tab, so we can take back that sidebar by clicking on the arrow once again. And then we can come down here and click on this eye icon that says preview changes. And this will just open up our website here in a new tab. So let's close this tab again and go back to our page builder. So now you understand exactly how your pages are structured with containers and elements. So now we have to learn how to actually edit and customize all of the elements on our page. So this would be the text on the page, the buttons, the background images, these images right here, and just everything we can see on our website. So let's start with this element right here. We have a heading element saying Earth. If you want to make changes to this element, all we have to do is click on it here in the preview. And then on the left side, all of the options for this element will open up. And with Elementor, we always have 3 tabs. We have the Content tab, we have the Style tab, and we have the Advanced tab. In the Content tab, like the name says, we can change the content. So if you want to change what it says here, we can just change it here under Title. So let's say we just type in WordPress, and then it will automatically change right here. Alternatively, we can also just click on the element right here and then highlight it, and then just change it directly here in the preview. Here under link, we can also add a link so that when people click on this heading, it will go to the link you put in here. And then we can also change the HTML tag. Then we can also go to the second tab, which is the Style tab. Here at the top, we can change the alignment. So currently this heading is aligned in the center, but we can also align it here to the left or to the right of the page. But obviously it looks best in the center, so I'm going to put it back to the center. Then under text color, we can mess around with the color of this text. So here by clicking into the color, we can basically change it to any color that we like. Or when we click on this globe icon here, we can see all the default colors that are already set up based on the theme that we have chosen. So in general, I recommend to use these colors right here just to stay congruent within your color theme. So I'm going to put it back into this green color. And then we also have typography. So when we click on this pen icon here, we can change everything about the typography. So we can change the font family. Maybe we want to use Verdana, or we want to change the size of this text right here. We can also change the weight. So here we can make it bold, or we can make it a bit less bold. We can also change the line height, the letter spacing, and the word spacing. But to kind of illustrate that, let's go to a different part of the page. Let's just scroll down and go to this text element right here. So again, to edit this, we just click on it, and then we just go to the Style tab, go to Typography, and then we're going to scroll down to these options, line height. So here we can just play around with the line height, and we can see when we increase it, the difference or the spacing between each of the lines will increase or decrease. Then we also have letter spacing, which just is the space between the letters. And we have word spacing, which is the space between each of the words. And once we're done with our changes, we can just close the typography settings again by clicking on the pen icon once again. And then we also have the advanced tab right here, but we're not going to go too much in depth here right now because this has mainly to do with spacing and alignment, and we're going to cover this at a later part in this video. But for now, this is how you can change everything about your text elements on your page. So next, let's learn how to edit and style the buttons on your website. Buttons are the places on your website where you want people to click on to get to the next page. So for example, here we have a button saying Explore, but for now, we're just going to delete this one and create a new button from scratch. So let's right click on this and click on Delete. And now to add a new button element, we're going to go to the 9 dots right here. And then from here, we're going to drag in the button element below this text right here. So now what we're going to try to do is to style this button to look exactly like this button right here, which is on the official WordPress.org website. So let's go back to our page builder and click on our button. And this will open up the options for this button again here on the left side. And we can see the same tabs as with the other elements. We have the content tab, the style tab, and the advanced tab. So let's start again with the content tab. First of all, for the type, we're just going to leave it at default. And then for the text, we want to change it to Get WordPress because that's what our other button says here that we tried to emulate. And then we always want to add a link to our buttons so that when people click on it, it will actually go somewhere. So here under link, let's say we wanted to go to the contact page. So we can just type in contact and then we can see the contact page right here. So we click on it and this will take the URL of our contact page to this field. Then we can also add icons to our button, but we don't have any icons here. So we're also not going to add it to our button. So now let's switch to the style tab. And here let's start with the alignment. So we want to have the button in the center. So I'm going to click on center right here. Then let's look at the typography. So here it kind of looks like this is some kind of Arial font. So we're going to add that as well. So let's go back here. Then under typography, let's click on the pen icon. And then we're going to change the family to Arial. And I think that looks a bit more like the button that we have on the other website. Then for the size, we can change that right here. I think this looks good. Then I think the text is a bit bolder here. So I'm going to change the weight as well to, let's say, semi-bold. Then we also want to change the spacing between the letters. So here the spacing is a bit too big. So we're going to go to letter spacing and decrease it to something like this. And that's it for the typography. So let's click on the pen icon again to close the settings here. So now let's look at the colors for this button. And we can see that the text is already white, which is good. But we do want to change the background color of this button to a blue to make it look like this button here. So let's go to color and then here click on this icon. And then let's go to the blue colors right here and just try to find the color that looks like the one on the other page. I think this kind of looks like this color. And then when we go back here, we can also see that when we hover over this button, then the color changes and gets a bit darker. And that's called the hover effect when you hover over the button. And that's something we can also add. So let's go back here and then click out of the color picker. Or actually, let's go back in it and then just copy our color code right here. This is defining the exact color we have here. So let's just right click and copy this. And then let's change from normal to hover. Then go to the color settings again. Then we're going to first paste in the color we already have into this field down here. Just right click and paste. And then we just want to make it a bit darker. So we're just going to drag this into the darker area here. And now we can see that when we hover over the button, the color changes and gets a bit darker as well. So now we're done with the colors and we can move on to the overall shape of the button. And when we go back here, we can see that this button has a bit of a different shape than what we currently have. So we want to go back here and then play around with the padding. So let's scroll all the way down here in the style tab and then go to padding. I'm first going to unlink these values here so I can set individual values for each of the sides. And first we're going to do the left and the right side. So let's do the right side. Let's try 20 pixels, or let's try 25. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the left side. And then maybe let's try and add 20 to the top, or maybe 15. And then the same thing for the bottom, 15. Let's go back and see. Yeah, I think a bit more, maybe 17 would look more like this other button. 17 here as well. And I think that looks pretty good. Now we also want to look at the edges. So here we can see it has a bit rounded edges. Here we can see it. And we can also add that. So let's go back. And then here under border radius, we can just add the values here. And by adding this, we can see that the radius here increases. So we can make that really intense. So we can have kind of this pill looking button, but we want to have it to look like exactly like the other button. So I think 3 pixels looks pretty good. And that's basically how you can create any type of button on your page. So now let's take a look at how to edit the images on our website. And first we need to make a distinction between the background images and then just image elements. For example, here in the top section, we have a background image. So here we can see the landscape, and then in front of the landscape, we have these elements. This means that this is a background image, which just fills out the entire section of this container. When we scroll down, here we can see that we have some image elements, and the background is just a white color. So here there's no background image. Then here when we scroll down to the next container, we have a white background and then an image element here in the right column. Then here we have another background image, because here it fills out the container area and we have some text in front of or inside of the container. So first we're going to look at how to actually edit the image elements, which we have here. So we have 3 images here, and then we have another image element right here. Now to change the images here, we can just click on it, and then we can see the same layout again. We have content, style, and advanced. Here under choose image, we can just click on choose image. And then here we have 3 options. We can upload our own image by just dragging and dropping it in here. Then we also have the media library. These are all the images that are already uploaded on your website. So here we can just see the images that are used to make this template that we are using. And then we also have free images. These are just taken from copyright free image sites, and you can just browse here. So we can just maybe type in nature, and then we should be able to see different images about nature that we can just use for free on our website. Now, if you need some more copyright-free images, what you can do is just go to Google, type in copyright-free images, and then you can look at the first website. So we have Pixabay, we have Unsplash, we have Pexels, FreePic. You can check out all of these websites. I like these first 3 right here, Pixabay, Unsplash, and Pexels. And then you can just simply download these images for free and use them on your website. So for this example, I'm going to upload an image that I have prepared before. So I'm going to click on upload files, and then I'm just going to drag and drop the image into the canvas. And once it's uploaded, I'm going to click on select. And just like this, we have this new image inserted into this right column. Once the image is inserted, we can also make some changes by going over to the Style tab. And here we can decrease the size, for example, by playing around with the width of the image with this slider here. We can also use the height to change the size. Then we can also play around with the opacity, so we can decrease the opacity or increase it all the way up. And then we have also the border radius, which is just the radius at the edges of the image. So if you want to have round edges, we can just increase the values right here to maybe, let's say, 20 pixels. And this gives us these round edges right here. And we can also add a box shadow by clicking on the pen icon next to box shadow. And this will add this nice shadow around our image. We can also increase or decrease the blur, change the direction of the shadow to make it look exactly how we want it to look. And if you want to just delete the shadow again, we can just click on this back to default icon, and this will get rid of the shadow. So now we know how we can edit all of the image elements on our website. Next, let's take a look at how we can edit the container backgrounds. Again, here for the first container, we have an image as a background. Then for the second container, we just have a white background, then again a white background, and then here we have another image. Now let's make some changes to the background of this top container. First, we have to select our container by clicking on the 6 dots right here. And then we want to go directly to the style settings. And here we can see that the background type is currently set to classic. This means that we can either add a simple color as the background, or we can add an image, which is currently the case for this container. Now to change that image, all we have to do is click on choose image right here. And then we can either choose an image from our media library, or we can upload our own image. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go to upload files, and then we're just going to drag and drop in an image that I want to use. Once it's uploaded, I'm going to click on select. And now the image has changed to the new one. And when we scroll down, we can see that the position for this image is currently set to center, which means that when the image doesn't fit the container perfectly, it will just center the image into the container. But if the top part of the image is more important, we can also show more of the top by changing this to top center, and then it will just show always the top of the image. Or we can set it to bottom center if you want to show the bottom of the image more. But I usually leave it at center. Then we have an attachment effect right here. So currently it's set to scroll, which means that the image will just scroll down with the page. But we can also set it to fixed, and then the image will stay fixed in place. And as you can see here, this will kind of give this effect where all the elements scroll up and the image will kind of stay the same in the background. But for now, I'm going to set it back to scroll. Then usually you want to leave the display size to cover to make sure the image covers the entire screen. And here under background overlay, we also get some useful options. For example, let's say we want to increase or decrease the brightness of this background here. What we can do is just add an overlay color and then play around with the opacity. So to make this a bit darker, what we can do is just click on the color option here and then just add a black color as an overlay over this image. And then here we can just play around with the opacity and make it all the way dark, or we can make it a bit brighter by decreasing the opacity of this black color overlay. If you want to make the background a bit brighter instead, we can just change the color here to a white, and this will increase the brightness of the background. So this is how we can edit and play around with the background image. But we can also just set it to a simple color. So when we come back up here in the Style tab and go to Background, to add a simple color, we have to just delete the image that is currently set here. So to delete the image, we just click on the trash icon, and this gives us the default color, and we can change that right here. We can click on the color and then change it to any type of color that we like for our new background color. Or we can also go to our default colors by clicking on this globe icon and then just choose any of the default colors. Now we could also choose a gradient as a background by changing the background type to gradient. And then here we can choose the first color. Maybe we're just going to choose a white. And then for the second color, we can choose that here. We can maybe just choose a gray. And now we have this nice gradient as the background. And another very cool thing we can do here is add a video as a background. For this, we have to change the background type to video. And then the easiest way is to just upload your video to YouTube and paste in the video link to this field right here. I've just taken an example video that I found. And by just pasting in this URL, the video will start playing here as a background. Now, maybe you want to have the video start at a specific time, then you can just enter the start time right here. Maybe I'm just going to have it start at 5 seconds, and then we'll end the video at 120 seconds. And then it will just play as a loop between the 5-second and 120-second timestamp. Now, whenever you add a video as a background, you definitely want to add a fallback image. That's because sometimes the video doesn't play for some reason, and then you want to have it display a specific image so that there's actually content in the background. So to add a fallback image, we just click on the plus icon here, and then we can just add an image. So maybe we'll just add the cloud image that we've used before and click on select. And now if for some reason the video doesn't play, maybe it gets deleted, we just have this image as a background. And then down here for background overlay, we have the same options as before. So we can add an overlay color. Maybe we want to add a white color, and then we can change the opacity to kind of brighten this video up, or we can also just decrease the opacity right here. And then the last type of background would be a slideshow. So to do that, let's go back to the background tab here, and then let's switch the background type to slideshow. And then here we can select our images by clicking on the plus icon. Here I'm just going to select some of the images I already have in the media library. Let's just take these 4 and click on create new gallery. Here we can also mess around with the order of the slideshow and then click on insert gallery. And now we have these images that will be displayed as a background, and then it will just change the images every few seconds. And here we can set all the values for duration, transition duration, and so on. But for now, I'm going to set the background back to its original one, which was just an image. So I'm going to go back to the classic background type, and then I'm going to choose my image here. I believe it was this one. Let's click on select. And then I can see there's a white overlay. So let's just delete that by going down to background overlay. And then I'll just decrease the opacity to 0. And there we go. We are back with the original background. So now we've learned how to control all of the elements on our page, the text, the buttons, the images, the backgrounds. And the next thing we need to know is how to control the spacing between each of our elements. And to look at that, we're actually going to go to a different page on our website. So first, let's save our changes by clicking on Update. Then let's open up a new tab and go to our website. Then here we're going to switch pages by clicking on the About page. And then we're going to go into the page builder for the About page by clicking on Edit with Elementor. And now we can just close the other tab. So there are a few ways how we can control the spacing between our elements. The most frequently used one is margin and padding. So let's see how that works. Let's scroll down on our About page and go to this quote right here. Now let's select this container, and then to control the spacing, let's go to the Advanced tab. And here we can see under Layout, we have margin and we have padding. By changing these values, it allows us to add space to the top, right, bottom, and left of our container. But what is the difference between margin and padding? To understand the difference, I have this illustration right here. Now here in the center, we have our content element. In our case, this is our container. And then in green, we have the border around our element. Now, when we add padding, it will add space between the content element and the border of our element, so inside of the border. And if we add margin, it will add space outside of the border. So here for our container, we can see that we have 90 pixels as padding for the top, which is this area right here. And then we have 100 pixels here for the bottom. Now, when we add more pixels to the top, we can see that the area on the top of the text will increase. So we have more padding right here inside of the border. Now let's put this back to 90 and let's see what happens when we add margin instead. Now let's first unlink these values so we can control them individually. And then let's start adding margin to the top of our container. And here we can see that the spacing will be added outside of our border. Now let's put this back to 0. And then let's say we want to decrease the space between this text element and this button right here. So to do this, we could either just decrease the space below this text, or we could decrease it above this button. It looks here like the space has been added to the top of the button right here. So I'm going to select the button element. And then to control the spacing, we're going to go to the Advanced tab again. And here we can see that there are 25 pixels added to the top of this button. Now to put this button a bit closer to this text, all you have to do is decrease the margin value here. So I can just decrease it maybe by, let's say, 10 pixels. And this will put the button closer to this text. Something to keep in mind is that oftentimes you don't really notice the difference between adding margin or adding padding because you don't really see the border on the actual website. For example, for this button right here, we could also just add padding by unlinking these values and then adding padding to the top right here. And as you can see, the effect is the same as if we were just to add more margin. And that's because we don't see the border on the actual website. Now, for the entire container, we do actually notice the difference because the background image here is only inside of the border. So if we add margin, then the margin will be added outside. So the white background gets larger here. But if we add the padding, then we can see that the background image actually gets larger because we add spacing inside of the border where the image is displayed. Now, another very simple way how we can control the spacing between elements is to simply add a spacer element. So we go to the elements by clicking on the 9 dots here, and then we look for the spacer, which is right here. We can just click, hold, and drag into the area where we want to add space, for example, between the heading and the text element. And then this element would automatically add some space. Currently, it's 50 pixels, as we can see here. And to increase the space, we can just drag the slider to the right, or we can drag it to the left to decrease the space in this spacer element. Then we have one more way how we can control spacing. Let's scroll all the way up to the top of the page and then select this top container. Then here we can see that the space between the top and the bottom of this container is actually defined by this minimum height slider. So here it's set to 600 pixels, and we can decrease or increase the minimum height, which will also control the spacing between the top and the bottom of this container. So now we know how to control our containers, our elements, and the spacing between those containers and elements. What we haven't looked at so far is how to control the layout within a container. So to look at some different layouts, let's open up a new tab and then just go to our website. And here for the first container, we can see that we have just a simple one column container with some elements in the center. Then when we scroll down, we can see that we have a 3-column layout. So we have 3 columns with 3 images, 3 headlines, and then 3 text elements. Then when we scroll further down, we have a 2-column layout and then another 1-column layout. Now to learn how to set up a layout within a container, what we're going to do is try to manually replicate this layout right here where we have 3 different columns. So let's go back to the other tab where we have our page builder open for the About page. And here we want to start with a simple container. So let's scroll down and click on the plus icon, then again on the plus icon. And here we can start with either a flexbox or a grid. Now the grid is something that I've recently introduced, which has certain advantages when it comes to building grid layouts. But we're not going to go too much into this because it's a bit more advanced, and we're going to keep things simple and just start with a simple flexbox. And then we can see a few structures we can start with. These are basically just templates for your layout, but we're going to start from complete scratch. So we're going to choose this one right here. And this gives us our first container. Next, we want to create our 3 columns inside of this container. And to do that, we have to add 3 more containers. So let's click on the 9 dots here and then just drag and drop in a new container. Now to have space for 3 containers, we need to decrease the width of this new container. So to do that, we're first going to go and select it. And then here in the Layout tab, we first want to change the content width from boxed to full width. So we're able to decrease the width of the entire container. Then we want to make sure that the width is set to percentage, and then we're just going to decrease the percentage to 33.33, which is going to allow us to have 3 of these containers next to each other, which is then going to fill out the entire width of the page. Once we have the first one, we can simply duplicate it by right-clicking and then duplicate, and then once more. And now we notice that our containers are actually aligned in a vertical manner, so they're below each other, but we actually need to have them next to each other to get our 3 columns. So to do that, we have to first select our main container again, the first one we've created, and then we want to change the direction here from vertical to horizontal. And this will give us our 3-column layout. Now, to make sure that our layout is always centered, we also want to go to Layout and then to Justify Content and click on Center. So now that we have our 3 columns, we are ready to start adding content. So let's click on the 9 dots again, and then let's drag in an image. And let's also add a heading. And then let's also add a text editor element. Then let's go ahead and choose an image here. So select the image element, then go to choose image, and then I'm going to choose this one here and click on select. Then we can also change the text here. So we're just going to select it and change this to web design. And then we're just going to leave this text as it is. And now I'm going to show you something very cool, which is how you can simply copy and paste the style of different elements on your page. So let's say we want to change the style of this heading to the style we have right here. All we have to do is right click on this heading element and click copy, and then go back to our heading and then right click and paste style, and then it will be in the exact same style as this heading right here. And then once we're done with the first column, we can save some time by simply copy and pasting it. So let's first delete the other 2 columns by right-clicking and then clicking delete, and then right-click on this one and click duplicate, and then again duplicate. And then we can just go ahead and change the content of the other columns. So let's say here we want to change it to this image, and then maybe we also want to change the heading to content. And then one more thing we could do is add some space to the top and bottom of this new container. And we already know how to do that. So let's just select the container here, go to Advanced, and then we're going to add some padding. So inside of this border, and let's just unlink these values and then add 50 pixels to the top of the container and also 50 pixels to the bottom of the container. So now you know how to create your own layout from scratch. This usually takes a lot of time in the beginning when you don't really have a lot of experience creating your own website. So if you want to save some time and make things a bit easier for you, one thing you can do is work with templates. So let's see how we can import a template to our page. Let's scroll up and click on the plus icon here once again. And now we're not going to start from scratch by clicking here. We're actually going to click on this S icon, which is visible because we have installed the Starter Templates plugin. And then here we're going to switch from pages to blocks. And then here we have all kinds of different layouts that we can simply import with some placeholder content. So we can simply browse these templates right here, and then once we find something that looks like what we want to create, we can simply click on it and then click on Import Block, and this will automatically import this design to our page. We can also change the position by just clicking, holding, and dragging it to wherever we want it to be placed, maybe right here, and then it will be put right here. And we can even import entire pages or parts of pages from other website templates that we have available. So here, when we come back to the plus icon and then click on the S again, here under pages, we can find all kinds of different website templates that we can use for our website. So this is actually the template that we are using right now as a starting point for our website, but maybe you also want to use part of another template. So maybe this one right here. So we can click on it, and then here we can see all of the pages that are in this website template. Maybe we want to use part of this about page here. So let's click on it, and then let's click on Import Template. And now when we scroll down, we can see that the entire page, so all of the containers in this page were imported to our page. So maybe we just want to use a specific part of this page. Maybe we don't want to use this part, so we can just click on the X to delete it. Maybe we also want to get rid of this one as well, and maybe we just want to keep this part right here, so we'll leave it, and then we just delete everything else. Now we can also create our own templates that we can then simply reuse on different parts of our website. So let's say we want to create a template out of this part here. All we have to do is right click and then click on Save as Template. Then we have to name the template. So let's just say Design 1 and then click Save. And now we can close this window. And let's go to another page of our website. Let's open up a new tab, go to our website, and then open up the page builder for our homepage. And then let's say we want to add this template right here. So we can just click on the plus icon, then click on the folder. And here we can go to My Templates. And here we can see our template. So we can just click on Insert and Apply. And now we can see that part here on our homepage also. Now, when you're creating your website, you want to make sure that it also looks good on smaller screen sizes, such as a tablet or a mobile phone. Because nowadays, most people are actually browsing the web using their mobile phone, and we want to make sure that our website looks good on the mobile phone device as well. So to see what our website looks like on a different device, we have to open up the responsive mode of Elementor. So to go to the responsive mode, we're going to go down to the left side and click on the responsive mode. Once that's done, this bar here at the top will open up where we can change between different screen sizes. Currently we are on the desktop view, but we can also switch to the tablet portrait view right here. And we can see how our website looks like on a tablet. Because we are using a template that is already optimized, we can see that it already looks pretty good. So there's not much we need to do here. But let's go to the mobile portrait view as well. And here we can see that we have a bit of a problem, which is that the WordPress text is a bit too large, so it doesn't really fit the screen. So we need to change that here in the mobile view. To do that, we can just click on the text element or the heading element and then go to Style and then click on the pen icon next to typography. And here we can decrease the size. Now, one thing we can notice is that here where it says size, there's a mobile phone icon next to it. This means that you can individually change this size of the text without having it affect the other screen sizes. So here I can simply decrease the size of this heading to, let's say, 40 pixels. And now when we go back to the tablet view and open up the typography settings, we can see here that it's still 60 pixels. And when we go back to the desktop view and open up the typography settings, we can see it's 83 pixels. And this works for all the values where we have this icon next to it. So let's go back to the mobile view. And then let's say we want to make some more space here between this text and this button. So we can just click on the button element, then go to the advanced tab. And then here for margin and padding, we can also see this phone icon. So we know that we can change the spacing independently from the other screen sizes. So maybe we just want to add some padding to the top here. We can just unlink these values, then add, let's say 10 pixels. And this will add this space here. And now when we go back to the tablet view, it will be without any padding here at the top. Another thing we can do is hide specific elements on different screen sizes. So let's say we want to just have this element on the desktop view and the tablet view, but we don't want to have it shown on the mobile phone view. What we can do is select this element and then go to the advanced tab, then scroll down and open up the responsive settings. Here under visibility, we can change the visibility on different screen sizes. So for example, if you want to hide it on the mobile view, we can just switch this to hide. And then when we go to the mobile view, we can see that this element is grayed out, which means that people will not be able to see it on their mobile phone. So now let's go back to the desktop view and close the responsive mode.